But in a situation where you find that a person look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
All right, thank you for staying. Now, let's begin with the Daily Trust newspaper. The lead story, of course, if you've been on the streets of Abuja or Lagos, anywhere you are in the country, you must have heard about it. And sometimes you must have experienced it. The lead story says, motorists groan as petrol sells 600 naira for a litre in Abuja. I, for one, bought had that amount, so it's not just a speculation. The other writers says price doubled in Kano, Lagos, Port Harcourt. You'll see also scarcity may affect inflation, and that's according to the NBS. Passengers stranded, transport fares rise by 150%, 1 billion litres in stock, 2.3 billion on the way. That's according to the NNPC. The pictorial there shows you the queues and, you know, the agony that workers have to go through to get to work. If you go to the secretariat axis of the FCT, you get to see firsthand how people are struggling to get vehicles to their destination. It's not pretty at all. Now, look at the queues on the front pages there. I mean, long queues. For some, they do not even have any idea on how or when they are going to leave the filling station to go to their homes. Some who do not have the luxury or the time, well, not luxury per se, but some who do not have the time to go to the filling stations may have to abandon their cars at home. And now you see an increase in the number of passengers on the road. Also, you'd see below that, Buhari to NAS, remove your 887 billion naira projects from 2022 budget. That's according to the president. Well, I wonder how this will pan out at this time when the whole conversation about 2022 budget is almost over. At the very bottom of that, you see man sets self ablaze to protest seizure of vehicle by LASMA. How Ogun couple killed woman sold head for 70,000 naira. Buhari confirms Bello Koko as NPA MD. And then below the nameplate there are some interesting stories as well. Aspirants, others fume as zoning threatens APC convention. Clerk defies retirement, performs duties at Senate plenary. You'd also find drug dealing, NDLEA grills Abakari and others. You'd see also the column there behind the Daily Trust newspaper is about the unseen forces behind terrorist fighters. So that's also an interesting subject you might want to pick up and have a sense of what the discussion is about, what the article is about. Well, these are some of the stories on the Daily Trust newspaper. Let's take a look at the Blueprint newspaper. And on Blueprint newspapers, the stories are not any different. Still about the scarcity of fuel. The lead story says at 700 naira per litre, Nigerians groan under biting fuel scarcity. I guess, or rather, I believe all the papers today will be carrying the story about the fuel scarcity in the country. It has the writers that says black marketers in brisk business, Abuja, Lagos worst hit. Commercial drivers brag, town commuters. It says allow us work from home, workers plead. Buhari writes NAS. He seeks 2.55 trillion naira for fuel subsidy. You'd find that on page 6. Now, if this is what we are going through as a result of this scarcity caused by dirty fuel in the first place, I can only imagine what will happen if the fuel subsidy is eventually removed. That must be a disaster, I guess. Now, look at the pictorial as well, showing you motorists. In fact, in some cases, what you see in the pictures is not even entirely, does not even entirely shows you the real picture of what is on ground. This morning I was passing through one of the filling stations, and it was like on virtually every entry point to that filling station, there are people there, and they are not in queues. They are just scattered all around. Everyone is trying to find his way in. So I just wonder what it will happen if the gates are eventually opened. What kind of chaos are we likely to see, and whether or not even the police will be able to control, the crowd there. It's going to be crazy. And I hope that people will not be killed or injured in the process of this, because it's almost like a stampede out there. So you'll see also below that, 3 winners get car, 38 million naira prizes in Katsina talent hunt competition. At the bottom, or rather below the nameplate there, you see INEC to resolve Beavers challenges before exiting Osun polls, and that's according to the INEC chair. Now, that's that for the Blueprint newspaper. Let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper. On the Guardian, the lead story says, harder times loom as fuel crisis lingers. It has the writers that says inflation decelerates slightly to 15.6%, and then data is mockery of market reality. Food crisis not reflecting government's investment in agri, says Farmers Association. NNPC imports 2.3 billion liters as queues persist nationwide. You would also find other stories beside that. NDLEA replies police, vows to prosecute officers indicted with Kyari. Ex-PGF boss writes Buhari accuses Buni of planning to scuttle APC convention. Fuel scarcity, Buhari did not order query over bad fuel, says presidency. Well, he didn't, but I think that's embarrassing, because we should see heads roll as a result of this. EFCC recovers 9 filling stations, lands others from serving military officer. You'd also see 5 children abducted from their homes in Rivers. All right, now that's that for the Guardian newspaper. On the Nation newspaper this morning, the lead story says Buhari governors meeting on APC convention fails to hold. The writer says president gets list of chairman aspirants. Uzodinma Ayade party can shift convention if necessary. That's the lead story, and you wonder why the Nation is deviating from the real conversation of the day about fuel scarcity. The other one at the top there, Olubadan to be craves for younger monarch in future. So I'm guessing there's a mix-up here on the story, but let's get to take a look at other papers. The Punch newspaper leads with the story of Abba Kyari's brother who received 279 million naira from Hush Puppy and others. That's according to police report. The writer says NPF probes Kyari for 33 cases of money laundering. Police recommend demotion for embattled top cop. And that's why some said, well, from a super cop to, I don't know what cop, again, to describe it, because if you were, holding such a high esteem and then all of a sudden everything is just crashing on you, it's really sad. And that there are lessons for others in this. You do not, pretend to be what you are not. Do not have double identity. It's not good, because it will catch up. Olubadan designates salutes Ibadan ascendancy system promises peace. And you have also Oshobo shooting, police indict Aregbeshola's men, NSCDC assault, cops, students demand sanctions. And then you have top military officer forfeits 10.9 billion naira property to FG, EFCC shields identity. Now these are some of the stories on the Punch newspaper this morning. At the top there, you'd see about fuel subsidy. I cannot miss that. FG states set for showdown over planned 950 billion naira FAC deductions. Well, is that to cover up for the fuel subsidy? Oh, well, you can get details of that on page 2 of the Punch. APC convention shaky. Buhari shuns governors, jets off to Belgium. And then finally, let's take a look at the Tribune newspaper this morning. It leads with a story about drug business. Kyari, 4 policemen arrested, NDLEA officials indicted. You see how he negotiated release of 25 kg cocaine, offered $61,400 cash, and that's according to agency. That's the details, of what we know so far about Abba Kyari. You'll find details of that on page 8 of the Tribune newspaper. At the top, the story about the APC convention, zoning consensus stall sale of forms as aspirants fume. And then you'd find PDP governors to raise panel to examine Nigeria's security. Now, these are some of the stories. And then we go to ASU warning strike. That's also another story on the Tribune. It says, Nance threatens nationwide protests, blocks federal secretariat gate. You'd find that on page 8. And the rider says, ASU mom on next action after 4 weeks rejects Pantami's professorship. We are not aware of impending strike. And that's according to the federal government. These are some of the stories on the front pages of our newspapers this morning. Kind of a reflection of what Nigeria looks like today. It's about fuel subsidy, it's about ASU strike, it's about APC convention, it's about fuel subsidy, and a whole lot more. Let's get perspectives on this. We have in the studio Ben Shemang. He is the Director News, Voice of Nigeria, to get perspectives. Good morning and welcome to Daybreak.
Thank you very much. My pleasure, as usual.
To begin with, on a more personal note, I'm wondering how you were able to even get here, this morning.
Honestly,
and how you've been managing all along, for the past weeks.
I just got some luck on Sunday. I was lamenting to a friend how I would get fuel. And he just put a call to somebody, and the person said, go to so filling station, go to the exit gate, and just tell them I said they should allow you in. And that was how I was able to get full tank on Sunday, But that does not mean it is the standard. I am not happy that I had to get it through some crooked ways. No, that shouldn't be. I ought to have got my fuel, drive in, freely. And I get an attendant who attends to me and I pay.
Now, while we were at this, someone crept in. My co-pilot.
I didn't creep in.
She has her own version of the story to tell on how to get to this place.
It's not funny at all. It wasn't funny at all. I mean, the number of queues, in fact, the cars blocking the roads, because when I even got out of the house, we're following a particular route and we had to reroute because, there are so many queues that, they ended up blocking the roads. It wasn't funny at all. It was not.
And if you look at the way the filling stations are, it doesn't seem like there's some kind of coordination.
There isn't. And, a lot of people actually complained that they prefer selling to black marketers. Yes, they sell more to black marketers than, those motorists that are queuing, and even some of them, they're even lucky or happy enough to get, half a tank or even quarter of a tank. Wow. It gets to your turn and they tell you there's no fuel just because they don't want to sell, even though the government has told them to work 24 hours. Nothing. Like the driver that actually brought me kept complaining that he had to stay. Some people end up sleeping there. They stay overnight.
Yes.
That's how bad it is.
Wow. Well, we hope that we get over this as soon as possible. We'll be bringing you updates on the spot as we continue the show today, just to have a sense of what is out there. Well, let's proceed with your thoughts, on all of this. You have given your own version, of the story about the impact of this, But, I'm also concerned about another group of people. Workers are not having it funny these days, especially for those who are not mobile. In fact, even those with mobility now are forced. Some are forced to just leave their vehicles at home just to get to work and all of that. Should we consider some other options to maybe, lessen the difficulties? Maybe you should declare some kind of work at home policy for some days or some weeks or some sort.
And that's where, talking of options, the railways ought to be working in Abuja. Honestly, they ought to. We ought to see the turnaround maintenance being a kind of 24-hour kind of work going on, rather than open the filling stations 24 hours. That is still a temporary measure. Why can't we just stop this forever? And stopping this forever means making all the 4 refineries to work. We cannot like keep on importing, and when you import, you're talking about a very high cost, and now we're talking of polluted ones that will have to be drained, and you now put in new ones, and that takes time, and of course, as we say in news, the effects.
What's even the assurance of evacuating the polluted, the adulterated fuel? Because from what we are hearing also, some of the petroleum marketers have raised concern that it's not just enough to even say we want to evacuate. Evacuating itself is a huge task. So some of them have resorted to even mixing some of the fuel. Some are even selling it already, because I don't know if you've observed, a lot of commuters by the roadside, or a lot of cars broken down by the roadside. I counted a lot of them, along the express and some other parts of the city because of bad fuel. Some of them, you have stories about fuel injectors developing problems because it's a bad fuel. So
absolutely.
What's even the guarantee that we have evacuated this?
Honestly, there's even the fear at the aviation circle too. If it happens, for a car, yes, you can roll to a stop. What about an aeroplane? I hope it doesn't reach there. Jet A1, no, it should not. We shouldn't think of that. But why is it that if you also look at it, it's easy for hawkers to have this fuel, sell at the roadside, compared with people who indeed are legally queuing? You don't get it. Now, these guys, it's like they have, the hawkers, it's like they've even formed a kind of an association. 10 liters, they tell you, is 4,000 naira, and they are not going down. Reduce this. They tell you, look, if I reduce this, what I'm supposed to return to the person who gave me in the filling station and my own gain, I will not realize, I will not make my money.
Some were even selling 600 yesterday.
Exactly. Now, by the time you look at that, they say, even security, it's an allegation anyway, that even security agencies have, those who are supposed to monitor also have a hand in this. I think it should, let me just put it this way, should be an allegation. Because why should we just be, bringing pains, unbearable pains on ourselves this way? It doesn't augur well at all. And talking of consequences, of course, you can see the work will not go on smoothly. You can imagine the general hospitals. You can imagine even private hospitals. You are rushing, an ambulance is rushing some people to hospital, or they are going to evacuate some people. God forbid there's an emergency. What happens? Then you're talking about the markets. Of course, any person who goes to buy at a higher rate and transports at a higher rate, of course the cost will be sent on to the customer.
Even in Kaduna, someone told me that a gallon that's like 4 liters of fuel, is sold for about 3,000 naira. And while I was coming to work today, I saw a lot of people walking because they got tired of standing, waiting for, transportation, people on suits. So after walking to work, how do you expect them to actually give their best?
And
yes.
you even see these hawkers, they sell according to the kind of car and the person who is in it. They look at your face and they give you a price. Take it or leave it. And this is where we ought to have this price control. We need people who indeed should face this kind of crisis. Let there be a task force. If it implies arresting some people, arrest them. If you're talking of Abba Kyari, who is facing whatever, and we're now saying some people in a filling station will now prefer to sell to black marketers. And these black marketers will determine their own price.
You know,
because
it's the way the black marketers even operate right now, there's nothing to put fear in them. There's nothing to say, because for most of them, they sell it around the filling stations.
Exactly.
So they buy from the same filling station, and they hover around there, and they sell them. Nobody arrests them. Nobody is saying, hey, why are you doing this? Nobody is doing that.
And once it finishes, they easily get more.
Exactly, because there is always what they call my own share within the filling station.
Now
They go there with big jerrycan, 50 liters, buy as many as possible. Just check around the gutter. That's where they now turn them into smaller gallons and up to 20 liters, 25 liters, and they sell. People get from there. But they are adulterated, and that's why you're seeing these cars breaking down along the roads here and there. And many people, again, will have to go to the mechanics, either to take care of your injectors, take care of your engine. Look, everyone is just at a loss.
And if you think about, those who make a living from this, for instance, commercial operators of vehicles, they make it, that's where they get their income. And it's daily. They have to do this daily. Otherwise, for some of them who are having the cars on hire purchase, or someone bought the car and give it to them, how do they, remit?
But you see, doing that at a high risk, buying bad fuel and knocking your engine, and you are unable to live up to the terms of contract is another thing. And there is this idiomatic expression, fishing in troubled waters. It's only when there are some problems here and there that some people smile to the banks. Those who are doing this kind of businesses are saying, man, we made it, and they are looking forward to this kind of a thing. We are looking for men and women of conscience in Nigeria to stop it. Stop it as in stop it. We ought to see the National Assembly condemning this, calling on authorities, and the authorities will react by, this is what we call emergency. It's an emergency, honestly. We set up a task force. People should sweep into that place and, go in there with action, arrest whoever is just feeling is above the law. Nobody is above the law in this matter. No, we cannot make Nigeria ungovernable just because some people feel they should do the wrong thing. No.
Okay, now considering that the masses are actually at the receiving end and, it's due to no fault of theirs, don't you think the DPR should, force these filling stations to actually sell to us at a lower price?
Well, you see, that is where we come in when it comes to privatization, commercialization. If you force them to sell at lower price, at what point, what was the price of import when they imported? By the time they import and they now want to make it Father Christmas, even Father Christmas, you must have paid at the gate before you probably pose for a photograph with him. And so if they bought it higher, they can't be selling it cheaper here. If therefore, to remove this subsidy will solve the Nigerian problem, we solve it for once and for all. Because if you look at when this scarcity started and you count the ones that have taken place either during this government or the previous ones, the losses are enormous. And so if you count them and the cost of removing the subsidy, will the industries work? I think we make it work. Therefore, if it's going to work, let us remove the subsidy. I feel so, honestly.
All right.
I feel so.
Now, we are getting, information from the presidency. The president did not order query over bad fail. Should we be happy about this?
I think a thing of this nature, if I were the president's spokesman, I will ensure that this statement does not come out. If initially they said the president has ordered a probe or has given queries to some people who should know the best, who ought to have done the ideal, let it be, even if they never said so. But if you're now countering all of this, I think that in terms of conflict communication management or crisis in communication, I think this shouldn't be. They ought not to have brought this kind of a statement. Just leave it as it is. When you have a lion that is asleep and it's not even there in the den again, people knew that there was a lion or there is a lion. By the time they pass in, they're already scared. And so, if the government would always take action, of course people will fear. But when you did or you didn't do, and you are bringing in a statement to counter it that you never queried these people, it's like saying, well, business can go on as usual. And so, people who thought that the government would sanction are now believing that, oh, it's after all, it wasn't, it didn't happen. So I think in terms of managing the information, this statement ought not to have come out.
Okay, earlier on you talked about refineries. Now, some people seem to be of the opinion that instead of, closing down illegal refineries, that they should, the government should register them and make them legal in a bid to, meet the needs of the Nigerian people. What do you think about that?
Yeah, you see, if you've been to Niger Delta areas, in particular, River State, Akwa Ibom, there is this thing called soot. Look, it's like dark cloud hovering around. You see roofs of houses being punctured. People are inhaling all of these things. Health hazard. Within the next few years, I hope it won't be, cases of cancer could be serious, because when government was thinking of having what is called modular refineries, there were supposed to be refineries that could just refine maybe some thousands, hundreds of thousands of crude in a day. But evildoers went into illegal refining, and you could see thick smoke all over Port Harcourt. The wind carries all of that, and at a point it even affects aviation. Aeroplanes will not land, they won't take off because of all of this. So if you're going to regulate that, yes, let it be that it is done the ideal way. If you say, yes, people can do operations on humans, does that mean you should go and bring razor blades and knives to begin to cut people? No, that's exactly what the evildoers are doing when it comes to illegal refining. There was a committee set up by the office of the VP, and it had to do with these refineries. Make sure that since these big ones, we are incapable for now of making them work, let us have the modular refineries. They are smaller, they are just like a kind of an agency. They can provide quick services. At that point, individuals were called upon, get your license, get connected with crude suppliers, and you'll find people who consume at home, and instead of this importation. And so, yes, it is good for us to have modular refineries, but it is bad and very bad indeed to allow the evildoers. If you go to the creeks, you see what has been done to the vegetation there. The crops the aquatics are gone. See the mangrove, the plants are also going. You could see sludge here and there. So that doesn't augur well for agriculture. Even the fish we eat. People who indeed do not have potable water, you want to sing a borehole, you have this the smell of petrol in it. And so it's a big problem, and we have to manage that. And that's why government went into this organic cleanup exercise that some people say, yes, it is going on. But we say, no, it is going on, but the pace and speed in which it's going is so small.
All right, now let's take a look at other stories. Another story on the front pages this morning is about the Abba Kyari's arrests. There seemed to be this, back and forth of bickering between the NDLA and the Nigerian police. Is this about to set us into another session, or I would say another period of rivalry between government agencies?
Honestly, a crime has been committed. A crime has been committed. We should not be looking at which agency is superior in this matter. Abba Kyari was a super cop that people, I tell you, people were saying one day we'll have an ideal IG. But you see, I'll not be judgmental, but there's the saying that not all that glitters is gold. Abba Kyari appears to be falling from the zenith up there, down, very down to the rock bottom. It's not the best. Now, when the police and the NDLA are involved in mudslinging over this matter, it's not the best. There was a time they were matched together, NDLA and the police, NDLA, Road Safety Corps. You could see that they didn't work very well, you know, at the expense of criminality. We begin to fight as to who is superior. It shouldn't just be once you catch criminals, catch the criminals. If this is your job, do it. It does not matter how you do it, but are you in control of the situation? That is just what Nigerians are looking out for.
But do you consider as surprising the fact that a top-level police officer like Abba Kyari will be engaged or will be involved with such, practices and in the service, and there's no any report or any information about his engagement with this drug dealing at any point?
Yeah, you see in criminality, even spy job, moonlighting, and you also have what you call the smooth operator. You don't leave traces around. It's only when the chips are down, sometimes when you're sharing loot, and so person did not get what was promised, that is where leakages begin to come to happen. They all are happening here and there, but it's the person that is caught that is known. And there are some people who indeed who occupy high positions, but because you have not caught them, therefore they are innocent. Abba is just one of them. He is now being caught, and of course he has to face the full scale of the law. His connections with many celebrities, and you could also see the way he was going running in the social media, his own Facebook, followers in millions. I mean, it was like he would leave the police force to join politics. In terms of security, I think
again another thing. Yes, another thing is that the FBI fingered Abba Kyari in one of its reports. When Hush Puppy was arrested, Hush Puppy was using something that looked like a smoke screen. He always, positioned himself or portray himself as this businessman who is doing very well and the likes. But at the end of the day, investigations revealed that this was this. And when the report, by the FBI came out, I think that there was some kind of reluctance to take that report seriously. Because if that was done early enough, maybe it would have pointed to something. So what does that say about, our collaboration with other agencies and other forces? There are instances where reports will be given, by maybe an international organization of some sort, and then locally we tend to have sometimes a negative response to it, always with the thinking that, they are just trying to destabilize the country, they are just trying to do this and that. So how about these collaborations? Have they helped?
Yeah, they've helped. The only thing is that back home, like you said, there are some people who engage in this laissez-faire attitude. It no concern me. No, the guy in question is my personal person. Therefore, I will not destroy my family relationship. I will not destroy this. We belong to the same club. I will not destroy this because we are members of the same alumni. No, we won't do that. But I tell you that the cooperation has been good, and that was why, if you look at from the Middle East, America, Germany, you could see that they've been able to bring out some collaborators back home in their home countries who indeed helped to destroy or give their countries bad image as to deals in Nigeria here. Remember issues dealing with electricity. Remember issues dealing with this German electricity company in Nigeria. So remember those who are sponsors of Boko Haram, they all were revealed from the United Arab Emirates, and they said these are the people, and some were fingered to be members of this, allegedly fingered to be members of the these Bureau de Change organizers. So it's nice to have these collaborations, and that's why if you check the case of former governor of Bayelsa State, Alema Singer, after how many charges in Nigeria, 100 and something, in the end they said he was free, that the EFCC could not bring good grounds to effect prosecution.
Again, that's another problem to the whole conversation.
But
it's not just about arrest.
When he went to London, of course, just one count, they caught the man.
Yes, and you know, again, that brings to the issue of the judiciary about whether or not it can actually deliver justice in this sense. So it's not just the arrest. After the arrest, there's a whole lot of legal battle that needs to go on, and whether or not we are equipped enough to ensure that we follow through with the issues till the very end in terms of ensuring prosecution of these persons. Because like the sponsors of terrorists that you talked about, a good number of them have not, you know, have not been, you know, their trial is yet to commence in the courts. So again, the issue of slow pace, and which is one of the reasons why some are also alleging that this is all a smokescreen about the Abba Kyari's arrest in Nigeria, that it is all staged so that the issue of extraditing him to the United States to face, you know, trial there will be averted. That's some of the speculations. I mean, some of the, you know, speculations I've heard, you know, and all of that. How would you respond to that?
Yeah, you see, many Nigerians have always been calling for specialized courts to try some cases. Just like election cases, you cannot go to the magistrate's court. No, there is a panel or election tribunal to handle all of that. If we therefore can have all of that, why don't we also have specialized courts to deal with cases that will come from ICPC or EFCC, and that will make it better. And therefore, cases too must always have a lifespan. Look, do adjudications for a period of 6 months, highest 1 year. You just have it done that way. Look at the case that happened with the Lagos landlords. And how many years since the days of Bolahon? How many people still remember that there was once a naval officer who was Bolahon as governor of Lagos State, who took over a certain portion of land under what they call public interest policy, and felt they will give the owners of the land that another place. They never did. Not until last year that the judgment was effected. So you can see that if we don't have specialized courts to handle specialized cases such as this, of course we're going to have these long delayed cases here and there, and you also have too many cases with few judges, few courts to handle them. So there has to be more recruitments, train people here and there, so that cases are dispensed with as fast as possible. There is this Latin maxim, it's a legal thing. They say justice delayed is justice denied. You keep on handling some cases till, the complainants die. And when they die, the case is gone. Those accused are jubilating. And so let us have specialized courts, and I'm sure some of these delays will be a thing of the past. And those who grant all sorts of injunctions, perpetual injunction, you say you cannot prosecute this, I therefore grant an injunction, and some courts fail to vacate such injunctions, That tells you we'll have a long way to go when it comes to service delivery in terms of judiciary, in terms of cases in courts.
Okay, now rather than, recommending probably his sack or, something similar, you have the police recommending a demotion for Abba Kyari. Is that actually a solution? And that means he will still be in service?
Honestly, it beats my imagination that a case of this magnitude, what has happened to people who are not in government, who indeed are caught with cocaine, what do you reduce them to? You remove them from society by putting them in prison. Now you have somebody, 25 kilograms is half a bag of cement. And you can imagine what that entails. That volume, that quantity. How many people will it destroy in society? Children sniff this thing in schools, in universities, workers do. And we now say, no, let's reduce the man, just reduce his rank, and business goes on. Okay, with time, the man grows again and comes up to occupy, big position. So where is deterrent in law? Where is shame in society? When you say name and shame, this is where it's supposed to be. There are times, those days when they said, that armed robber came from so-so-so family, and at the point of execution, they were taken and tied to a stake in the community where they originate, so that it serves as a deterrent to people in the society. The family becomes, it's a shame that it has happened. So when these things happen, it's a kind of a control mechanism. But when you now say, no, having committed this thing, no, he's a gentleman, yes, he has done this, but he has done an infraction. He has offended the law. So he has to send the same law. He has to be put on the scale where every other person who commits similar offense is put. And that's why Nigeria has always been a transit point. People are now using it to transit. Gradually, we are seeing that the country is also becoming a consuming nation. If people will make a fish roll and begin to sprinkle cocaine or heroin or hard drugs on top, and they are selling to children. People have been caught pants down in this kind of deals. So that tells you there is danger. You go to villages and you see what people are drinking, concoctions. I hear all sorts of names, even names of football clubs, and you hear terrible ones, Kill Me Quick, Goscolo. What are these? We ought to also see local governments bringing in their bylaws, residual laws, to take care of us.
And all of this have implication on the general sanity of the society.
Exactly. Because when you can't control the children here and there, politics is coming, they will recruit them, give them some of these things, and they drink. The winners will always, when they say, come and take your certificate of return, it's then they bring their children well-dressed from foreign countries and chauffeur-driven. They go to INEC to receive certificates. Those who are sleeping in the streets, burning houses, causing arson, orgy, making society not to sleep, they are left behind.
Okay. All right, now. All right. Let's move on to. Do you still have a question on?
Not exactly.
Okay. I wanted you to share your thoughts on the ASUU strike. It's one too many.
You have said my mind. One too many. And honestly, it doesn't augur well. A student applied for masters. They said, bring your manuscript. And when they brought the kind of class of degree and all that, I said, look, but your year of graduation, you ought to have graduated within 5 years, but you've ended up spending 7, 8 years. And you have this kind of class of degree. So what were you doing? And that's why sometimes you see some of our students, they face some professional courses abroad. So there has to be teacher quality, there has to be curriculum quality, there has to be student quality. And so when constantly we're talking of strike here and there to make up points because we need our payment, yes, they should be paid if they work for it, but the strikes are becoming just too many. And a situation where doctors too will also go on strike. I mean, having vowed that yours is to protect God and human beings, you are like the gods on earth when you are a doctor. And doctors also come via the lecturers. And so lecturers, honestly, let's have some pity on this country called Nigeria and our citizens.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on Daybreak this morning and sharing your perspective with us on these stories. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
When a situation where you find that a person look at the same,
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that